Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, and this is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and we're heading down to Shelbyville, Kentucky, and Alan Bullman, Slate Media Studios. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, you got quite a loft there, and in the warm-up, we were talking about all the things you do, so why don't you kind of let the folks know what you do for your day job? We know via social media, you've had a successful hunt already this year, and kudos to that. So take it away, sir.
Yeah, I am the owner of Slate Media Studio. I do a lot of videography, photography work, Facebook marketing, and promotional items. I own a hat company called Kick-Ass Caps also, where we do leather, laser engraving caps. We do a lot of hunts. Produced a few shows in the industry. The one show that we'll be talking about is called The Game with Matt Jennings and Stephen Tucker that killed the world record buck. So I actually do some filming and editing stuff for their show, but do quite a bit. I've been in the industry for, 10 years. I used to own Working Class Hunter. I had that show for 4 years. We were on the Hunt Channel. We were on the Pursuit Channel. This past year, I handed that off to those guys to focus more on a career in the industry versus actually having a show. Doing some freelance videography, hunts, more advertisement, graphics work, logo work, things like that. And also, I'm affiliated with Treason Camo, with Cobb Sanders and Tina Kane, Brad Thomas, Cody Nixon, Jolly, all of those guys over there. I help them with some branding and product development, and do a little bit of graphics work for them. So I'm in tune with those guys quite a bit. We have a weekly conference call, and been very successful. We've got some pretty big things in the works with that group. We're getting in some big box retailers that's coming up, Gander Outdoors, and some fairly big things happening in the Treason compound. So we're really excited about that, and just amazed, very blessed. Definitely God has blessed me and given me that, the opportunity I love, what I enjoy, and I couldn't ask for anything, else than that. My wife is getting ready to open up her first retail store. We've got another retail store going in. So just a lot of good things, We're very blessed right now.
Well, you're quite the entrepreneur and quite the deer hunter, as we'll find out shortly. And just, hey, folks, it's 9/11. Alan, your thoughts about 9/11?
My thoughts on 9/11. I was actually, did packaging pretty much most of my life, and I can remember I was at work that day. They had like a little small room with the only TV in it. And they all called all the management group in upstairs, and when the first plane hit, and it's definitely sombering, humbling. It's a touchy situation, but I look at it from a different perspective. At that moment in time, all of America loved America. What race, religion, or anything, everyone loved each other. Everyone pulled together at that time. So, we can only hope that, with everything going on in the world, that we continue that. And that's why we need to constantly remember what happened then, that, when these things happen with the schools and everything else, it has nothing to do with guns and stuff like that. It's the people that are behind it, and we've got to make sure that we we are standing as one and loving each other at no cost, that no matter what we are, what color, race, religion, or anything else, that, we're all humans, and we definitely need to pull together in times like this.
And thanks for saying, for mentioning that. So, folks, I know you're going to listen to this later, but I just wanted to, take a moment and, remember, and for all the first responders, and their families, some of those guys and gals didn't come home from work that day. So, thank you. So, Alan, let's go and talk about this hunt that's zipping around on the internet, and that's how we got together on Instagram. And I saw that deer. I said, "Wow, that's a great story," and I'll be having a lot of these stories this fall and winter. And so let's talk about it. Let's set up the story and find out why you were even hunting, and then we'll go through the hunt itself.
Okay, yeah, sure. Um, I do some freelance filming for some guys, and I do this for the TV show and produce the TV show The Game. That's going to be new this year. I did some teaser stuff in Tennessee with those guys a couple months back, and Matt had called me and said, "Hey, this was like last Wednesday." He calls me up and he says, like, "Hey, I don't have a cameraman for this up and coming weekend. Had a death in the family, wanted to know if I could actually come and help." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Loaded up, got in the car, took off, um, and I was there for him, help him out. We got in, got a little bit late getting in there to get set up, and in Kentucky when it's 90 something degrees, humidity is miserable, we're pouring the sweat. We have to do a hanging hut stand. Um, so we're going in there. We're having to hang a camera set to be able to film. We get in there. It's a pretty neat setup, but we're in real tight. We only have the opportunity to probably shoot 15 yards, 20 at the most. But the camera, I really can't. It's a large tree. You had to kind of get in behind it. Can't really see over your shoulder. Um, I'm telling man, I'm like, okay, if this is going to happen, you're probably going to have to sit down to shoot this deer that comes in, just so I can film over your shoulder. I mean, it was really tight. But for the situation and the quality of the deer that was coming in, we were at Ridgecrest Outfitters, Chip Wade, and those guys down there, and they just do a phenomenal job, because what they end up doing is, they don't pressure. They only let so many hunters in. And he's like, I only want enough hunters to pay for my lease. And I just don't want to pressure the deer. I want to build big deer and things like that. So, which is really good, and why that he is one of the premier outfitters in Kentucky, because you're going to go there and you're going to sit and you're going to see good quality deer that's not been pressured, that doesn't have 60 or 70 hunters coming in there every week. And it's a good opportunity with those guys. But we're sitting there, and this storm decides to roll in, which we're thinking this is a good thing, because it needs to cool off, maybe get the deer on their feet. But as you all know, rain and water does not mix the camera equipment. So we're worried about how this is going to do. I'm taking, my backpack, putting it underneath the seat. Luckily, I had a rain fly for the backpack. I'm throwing it over the camera. We're just kind of sitting there talking. Rain finally kind of lets up, stop, take the camera off, we're doing a little bit of interviews, things. We're sitting there thinking, okay, these deer are probably they're not coming in. Where are they at? Maybe this storm has kind of got them a little bit settled down for a while. About an hour before dark, Matt says, "Hey, there's a big body deer coming across." And it's like a 3-foot creek that runs across between the wood line and where we were sitting. Is on the other side, and he's coming across. And next thing I know, he's like, "It's a shooter! It's a shooter!" So it's coming through. It's coming in fairly skittish and stuff. And luckily, because the wind swirls in that area, we had 2 ozonics units out, and definitely those ozonics units helped us. Had one facing behind me, one facing in front of Matt. But this deer definitely knew something was up. He comes in really slow, and he's coming in and out of the woods, and he's trying to circle us. at this point, and he's sitting at about 8 yards. And he comes in this one little opening, and the only opening I'm going to have an opportunity to film. And I'm like, Matt, you have got to take this deer now. I think this deer kind of is looking up, kind of looking back at us. He tries to draw on this deer 4 different times with it standing in this little gap. He's having to sit down so I can film over his shoulder. And I'm like, and then it takes one more step, puts his head behind some trees. And I'm like, you've got to take this deer now or it's not going to happen. He draws back, makes a really good shot on this deer. It, kind of, it doesn't really, it runs off, but it kind of goes off slow. We're like, he's definitely made a very good shot on this deer. Everything's good. We're sitting there high-fiving each other post-interview thinking, I mean, this deer has got like 7-8 inch brow time.
Oh my goodness.
It's scoring in the mid-40s, 140. So I mean, it's definitely it's a very nice deer. And this deer's out of velvet. Some are in velvet, some are out. And so we're sitting there talking or whatever, and he's looking over my shoulder at this point and looking at that cornfield that I'm silhouetted in. Luckily I've got my trees on, so nothing can see me. I'm kind of hidden back in there, but I've got a lot of sunlight and stuff on me. But definitely the camo definitely helped me from that respect. So he's watching this deer and he's like, okay, there's a big buck in the field behind you eating on the corn. He's going to call Chip. He sends Chip a message and see if we get the green light on me having an opportunity to shoot one to see if we can't double up. And I'm like, okay, we can make this happen. He's on the other side of the tree. The camera's on my side, so I'm going to have to self-film this deer. He's getting ready. He's going to hand me his bow. He gets the green light. He's going to hand me his bow. His bow's left-handed. I shoot a bow right-handed. So I'm like, okay, this ain't going to work. I grab his release. I'm used to shooting a thumb release, and he has a wrist strap. I put it on the wrong hand just because I'm not used to that. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. So I'm having to switch hands with it, still get the camera on it. This deer's starting to walk in, turn around. Not only is this bow's left-handed, it's probably 2.5 to 3 inches longer in draw length than what I'm used to shooting. Luckily it's got a steady form on it, which I think plays a huge role in this. So this deer comes walking in. He says, "Hey, I'm not going to tell you what to do." He said, "But there's a bigger deer behind it, and he's up there eating in the corn." I said, "Okay." So this first deer walks up and it comes to the edge of the cornfield. It's sitting there and it just dead stops. And I'm like, okay, this deer is trying to win this. But luckily with those onyx, it cannot figure. It knew something was up, but it can't figure anything out. And I don't know if it could smell where that other deer was that Matt shot earlier or what it was. But it stands there, and then all of a sudden, it takes 180 degrees and turns and goes back the other way. And there's no shot at all, even on that. So the other one the other one doesn't. It's up there eating, so it doesn't even see, and it finally starts to work its way. And at this point, I am shaking. I am tore up. Buck fever is set in, and then I've killed quite a bit of deer. I mean, last year I killed 3 bucks in 3 different states in a week and a half, and that buck fever and stuff, it never goes away. I mean, you never stop. If you enjoy this as much as we do and have the passion we do, it definitely. I was literally shaking the bow, Matt, because I thought the deer was going to hear the arrow rattling in the bow. And I'm like, I'm tore up at this point. It's one big deer, which is what for me I would have shot all day long. And then this other deer that's even larger than it coming in. So he comes in, he's getting ready. I've got the camera on this opening. He's getting ready to step out of the corn. He takes one step out. I draw back. All he's got to do is take probably 2 more steps, and he's out in the open, perfect shot, 25 yards, broadsided, everything's good, and he dead stops in the exact same spot that the other deer does and sits there. I sit there at full draw with this left-handed bow that I could pretty much put behind the string behind my ear at this point because it's so long, and I'm holding this bow back for I know at least 2 minutes. Matt said he didn't even hear me draw back. He come around the corner, and I'm like, okay, this deer is probably going to turn and go the same way this other deer did. I said, I've got one opportunity. So I have to squat down on the stand to shoot underneath this limb. And I've got one little shot. He's quartering to me pretty hard. I end up putting the shot right there at at the front of the shoulder, and when I make the shot, it sounds like a cinder block, like it's just going to hit this, it hit his shoulder, and I'm like, oh, I did not make the shot that I needed. This thing's hit his shoulder. It almost knocks the deer to the ground. He takes off running, runs for just a minute, and we didn't hear anything. We figured it just walked off. So at that point, I'm like, okay, hoping I made a good shot, but I'm not sure. Let's go back to the hotel, to the lodge, to make sure that we can review the footage. We went back and ate dinner. At that point, I'm nervous. I'm like, it had been raining. I'm like, we're not going to find this deer. Um, but we're going to give it our best effort. We're going to get in there and try to get on it. So we leave it for quite a few hours. I think 4 or 5 hours. We go eat and review footage, and it looks like it's a good shot, but it's really hard to tell because it's behind this limb. We get back in there, find out where, I actually shot the deer. The arrow's sitting there. We didn't go to it in the beginning. Walk up there, 60, 70, 75 yards. There the deer lays. Biggest velvet buck of my life. We're high-fiving each other. I mean, just an amazing experience at this point. And just blessed with the opportunity with those guys to be able to get up there and do that and a double up and use a left-handed bow and just everything. And then we go look for Matt's deer and we kind of have a hard time trying to find Matt's deer, can't find it. We call On Track K9, Lance Brantley, those guys, and come in to kind of help us find his deer. We did a successful hunt for both of us, and it's just an amazing story. It's just a blessed to have that opportunity to kill such a quality animal and harvest those beautiful deer. It's amazing, and the fellowship that we had this weekend was just phenomenal.
One thing that, hunting and shooting bows, as long as I have, to switch up and go left hand, and when you can't find a peep sight right away, I know that. How are you able to do that? What skill sets do you have to be able to, switch it up like that and make a, killing shot on a trophy buck?
Uh, one, I'm left-handed, so I think that kind of helps. But I shoot right-handed, and I've always shot right-handed. But I shoot a gun left, so I can switch dominant eyes back and forth. So that played probably a pretty good role in there. Also, having the steady form on that bow allowed me to lock that bow in. So that created that third anchor point which keeps that bow from torquing. Even though it was a longer draw for me, with having that steady form, it kind of locks it in up against your forearm. And so it's in position no matter what. So no matter whether I'm holding it, Matt's holding it, or whatever, when you're holding on that handle and you get the steady form up against there, you have got it at the correct angle, the correct, everything. The only thing is just making sure you don't have no string pressure. I've been shooting ASA for quite a few years. Had the opportunity to come in about 3 years ago, come in fourth in the state of Kentucky. So definitely, me and my wife shoot quite a bit and been very successful in shooting bows. So I think all of those things kind of come together to play a huge role in that area.
You mentioned, how we all get excited. How do you get away from target panic, buck fever, whatever you want to call it, and calm yourself down for, that 1 second of release? Because I've had elk in front of me, 10, 15 yards, bulls bugling, and I'm a basket case, and my arrow's just bouncing, on the rest. It really is. And the guide or who's ever calling behind me is laughing their ass off. And, it's something that happens. How do you overcome that?
I think if you're a hunter like us and you enjoy it as much as you do, I don't know that you'll ever overcome it. I think if I ever overcome that shaking and that excited feeling and that adrenaline rush, I need to lay it down. It's not fun anymore. It's just more to me, doing a lot of competition shooting. It's just controlling your breathing. Because I can tell you right now, when I got ready to pull that trigger, I had to second guess myself multiple times and had to slow my breathing down to make sure I was steady when I squeezed that trigger. because you can get too excited and jerk that trigger, and it would have been over that deer's back, and I would have lost that opportunity. So definitely, I don't think that'll ever go away. Um, but it's just pretty much on how we handle it and how we deal with it. Just trying to, I've always said to myself, just take a deep breath, calm down, and squeeze the trigger. I can't keep telling myself enough to just squeeze the trigger versus, snatching it or jerking on it.
'Cause it's a, repetition, but it's just, I find it just amazing. When you're up in a tree, you're self-filming, left-hand bull, you got a quality deer, and a mature buck in front of you. What a great story.
Yeah, it was definitely an amazing time, amazing story, and just having that opportunity was just phenomenal.
Now, what's up for the rest of what's on the docket for the rest of your season? Because I don't know how many bucks you can take in Kentucky. Are you done in Kentucky, or can you still hunt?
Yeah, I'm done in Kentucky. I mean, unless you're on one of the military bases, but you have to be drawn early for that. So as far as bucks go, I'm done. My focus in Kentucky will be on my wife, trying to get her on a good buck, and try to get her on film, and just for us, just to have for our personal use. And then I'll be doing a lot of doe hunts because I do a lot of promos and stuff for the Hunters for Hungry, for Kentucky Hunters for Hungry. We do a lot of donations. We typically kill about 5 does a year between me and my wife and donate to the Hungry because it's about 52% of the children population in Kentucky, or in the poverty state, stuff like that. So I've done a whole episode with those guys before, and I think us as stewards of the industry to give back. And this is a way where we can enjoy what we do, enjoy our passion, and it's back in a way that really benefits our community. And the good thing about the Hunters for Hungry in the state of Kentucky is all that meat goes, if you kill it, whatever county you kill it in, it typically goes in that county. So it's a local, which is really good. And as far as what I've got on the docket, my sister's getting married next weekend, and then I am headed to Ohio to film Matt again. We're going to be up in Ohio hunting at another outfitter, and then probably a few weeks after that, the end of October, 1st of November, I'll be in Kansas for a week, week and a half. We typically take a big trip and go to Kansas every year. Killed a large 12 point in Kansas last year. And we've got some property up there that we have access to, and so we're always excited. That's a good trip for us. And then I think we're going to be headed to 1st of December. I think we'll be headed to Texas, doing some filming with those guys down in Texas on some hunts.
So if somebody wants to reach out to you and talk about the outdoors career, what you're doing, your company, Slate, how would they do that?
You can get me on, Slate Media Studio at gmail.com. Or, Alan Bullman, just hit me up on Facebook or hit me up on Slate Media on Facebook. And, we'll definitely love to chat, help anybody out that I can. I do some photography classes and stuff like that here locally in town. And, but I'm always looking to definitely help excel anybody's career. I want everyone to succeed in this industry. There's too much negativity, and I think we all should be kind of joining together and making sure, no matter what size deer you kill, it's your deer, it's your choice. It should be your decision. So, and be able to share that, by way of filming, by stories, by blogging, or any of that thing. I would love to be able to help anybody out that might be interested in the industry and want to understand how I got started and how I got moved up in but definitely interested in helping anyone that I can.
So, folks, this is going to be a wrap for Whitetail Rendezvous and Alan Bullman this morning. Alan, it's just a joy to meet up with you. Hope we meet sometime at ATA or down the road. And love the hunt with you sometime down in Kentucky. Kentucky's on my list, and I look forward to getting there. And with that, on behalf of thousands of listeners, we're over 1,000 downloads a day for Whitetail Rendezvous. So our brand is growing. And just thank you for taking your time this morning and being a guest on Whitetail Rendezvous.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it, Bruce.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.